Owen. As I was saying, I've known you since you were 2 years old. I went to work for the Heath Evangelical Church as a student worker in 1987, and you were 2 years old then. Tell us about family life growing up. What do you remember of it? Mum, dad, sisters?
I have two, no, I don't have two mums and two dads. I have one mum and one dad, which is one set of parents. I have 3 sisters, all older than me. So that was tough.
There's quite a gap between you and the youngest.
6 years, yeah, between me and the next one up. So a lot of bullying growing up I experienced from my sisters.
I'm sure they looked after you dearly.
Yeah.
Your mum and dad very much involved in the Heath Church. Your dad's now an elder there. I know in 1987 he was a deacon, wasn't he? And heading up the boys' club.
Yeah. I'm not sure he was a deacon, but he did do the boys' club, yeah, a bit like this, but with boys.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, what do you remember of church life there? Did you enjoy going to church as a youngster?
No.
Okay, can you expand on that a little bit?
I went to church because my parents made me. Although, props to you, you did make meetings interesting, and I did tend to listen if you were speaking. But other than you, I wasn't interested. Boring, unappealing, not interested in Jesus really and what he's got to offer. Because the Nintendo had just come out, and Super Mario had just come out, the first one. What do I need anything else in my life for?
Was that the plug-in cartridges?
Yeah.
They're quite something, weren't they? So, no real interest growing up. When would you say you began to have an interest in Christian things?
Well, it's a funny thing because when I was your age, I probably did believe that there was a God and that Jesus existed. Probably believed it. It just did nothing for me, really. I reckon, do most of you go to his church? Some of you do, some of you don't. You probably, most of you, would believe that Jesus is Lord. But nothing, then there's a disconnect between what you think is probably true and how you live. And so that was me when I was their age, for sure. Yeah.
So,
and to answer your question, I did have a few moments when I was your age, when I was probably overtired, and I would cry and ask to become a Christian probably about 10 times when I was growing up. But it never lasted. Quickly fizzled out, back to Super Mario on the Nintendo.
so you do remember times growing up. What sort of age might you have been? What age range where you would pray and ask God to save you?
Probably I asked it properly when I was about 12. Roger Carswell, your friend, came and spoke in a church meeting, and I got a bit scared about hell and that. So that night I went up to Roger, cried and said I want to become a Christian. So I prayed with Roger. So I had quite a few wobbly moments like that.
Did he give you a book?
He gave me a book, yeah. He gave me 2 actually. I've still got them. One of his books. So yeah, I went through it. I was up and down a lot growing up.
Do you think throughout that period you might well have been a Christian? Looking back.
Right, good question, Andy. Because if you had asked me that question about 2 years ago, I would have said no.
Well, I'm asking you tonight.
Okay, because you're asking me tonight, my answer is I'm not sure if I was a Christian. I might have been.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah,
Because some of these youngsters here, if they are honest, might be going through similar things in their own lives. Aren't I?
Alright, so now that I look back, when I was your age and a bit older, you start getting a bit wobbly, like you fall in love with a girl for the first lesson of the day in school, and then the second lesson it's all over and you want to die, and then you're falling in love with someone else after lunch with a new girl again. So you're up and down in life, and you want to be a helicopter pilot one day, and then you want to play for Tottenham Hotspur the next day, and you're up and down on everything, and some days you wake up really miserable, and other days you're really happy, and some days you have arguments with your brothers and sisters. You're up and down because of biology. And so when I went down, and I was just generally low about everything, I think I then began to think, oh, I'm probably not a Christian. But I was just low. It was just one of my lows. But here's the thing. If Christianity is what Jesus has done for me, and he's got me rather than I've got him, and what can I do and how do I feel, maybe he did have me even back then in my highs and my lows, because, now this thing's important, my friends, I had invented little loops that I felt I had to jump through in order, before I could believe that I was a Christian. So I had to feel a certain way, or read the Bible for 4 hours one day, or have a good pray. If I jumped through that loop, then I could believe for that day I was a Christian. My problem was, as I look back now, a lot of those loops I created for what's a Christian don't actually exist in the Bible, and I had made them up because I'm Welsh and I got cultural ideas of what Christians should look like, but they're not in the Bible. In fact, I'm a preacher, I try to be, and I deleted all of the sermons I've ever preached. I did this a couple of months ago. So all of the sermons I've ever preached up until like last year, I deleted so no one could ever listen to them ever again. It was like thousands of hours over a decade of preaching. Because even in my sermons, what was creeping in is little loops that I had created that people had to jump through before they could believe, and before I could believe that they were Christian. But let me tell you, a verse that really struck me and has made me wonder, oh, was I a Christian when I was your age after all? And it was in Romans chapter 10, and it says, if you believe in your heart and confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and that he is risen from the dead, you will be saved.
How long till we get there?
Well, hold on. Wait, good question. I think that was a good question.
What was the question?
How long till we get there?
Yeah.
How long till we
I
get
was
there?
doing this, like sermons, we're doing roads and
Right.
Oh,
Oh, I thought you meant like
nice.
emotionally. How long till we
That's
get?
Well,
You're just
okay,
you're
so
going
that's
through
one
it.
question.
Not as good as I thought.
Right, 10 years.
Okay. So yeah, you might be asking, how long till I get there,
Yeah.
where I believe that Jesus is Lord? It's like
It's not that deep.
if you're in the room now and you do believe Jesus is Lord and that he is the only way to heaven, you're not good enough and he's literally lived and died for you, and you get in there on his merits and you chat about it and you are plugged into church, you know, I wouldn't worry too much about whether you've had some ethereal, existential, heavenly zap before you can worry if you're a Christian. Basically, just shut up and get on with following Jesus. That was what I would tell a younger me. So I might have been a Christian back then.
So that's what you tell a younger you.
Yeah, shut
Take
up!
God at his word.
Shut up! It's not about you, you muppet! It's about Jesus! That's what I would say to me. I say it to my kids all the time.
Okay. Now, how old?
3. 3 and 5. I'm like, shut up! I'm not abusive.
Okay, let's move on then a bit. Let's move on. Because there came a point where you would say there was a point where God clearly broke in. It was quite an extraordinary way in which God spoke to you. Tell us about that. I think you were 19 at the time.
Yeah, I was 19. Whether I was a Christian or not, alright? We'll just for this illustration say that I wasn't. When I absolutely knew that I was when I was 19. And I was a real naughty boy. And I got into real bad stuff. And when I went to bed on February the 23rd, 2014, I went to sleep. And what happens when you go to sleep is sometimes you have a dream. And I had a dream. And in that dream, me and my friends, we were all drug dealers in the dream. And we just finished the day dealing drugs. And we were driving around Thornhill. Do you know where Thornhill is? Do you ever venture that north? And we were going to Caerphilly Mountain to take some drugs or whatever. And all of a sudden there was this massive trumpet noise in my dream. And I looked out of the window. It was a yellow Mini, the car, if you wanted to know. And I looked up, and all of a sudden angels started appearing, and Jesus appeared, and it was the end of the world in my dream. But the problem was, at the same time as angels appeared, demons appeared. Demons, according to my mind at age 19, what I thought demons might look like. I don't know if you've ever seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You haven't missed much if you haven't, but there are little like red looking painted goblins in there. Anyway, that was what a demon looked like in my dream. And they started chasing me because I belonged to them in my dream. I didn't get the good stuff. I got all that cast away dark stuff. So I got out of the car and I legged it to Caerphilly Mountain and I hid behind a rock because I was trying to hide from these demons. And as a demon approached me and I was like, oh man, this is it. I've rejected Jesus and I'm finished. He's going to rightfully cast me out. Anyway, just as he approached me, an angel appeared, and the angel put his foot on me when I was cowered behind a rock and just shone, and this demon just like evaporated into nothing. And at that moment I woke up. And I was like, whoa, that was weird. But I did something else. I got out of my bed because I was scared. I was scared, like, because it was true. Now I'm not saying the details are true and like demons look like Buffy the Vampire Slayer goblins. What I'm saying is, in real life, I probably wasn't a Christian and I had rejected Jesus and his church. And if I did die then, I'd have belonged to the place of darkness. So I got out of my bed and I prayed, Lord, that was a weird dream. I'm not saying it's from you or it was some vision or something, but it was actually, the story of it was true. So I was like, Lord, please, I'm a bit scared of hell. Well, actually, I'm very scared. Please save me. And he did. Right then, I just got it, that I'm safe in the arms of Jesus. I got it then more than I ever had before. I'm not saying I wasn't Christian before, but I got it properly then.
Okay, what did you do next? I believe you went and told your parents?
Yeah, I told my parents.
So it's Romans 10 and 9, really?
Yeah, confessing it. He's Lord, and I'm safe, all that stuff.
And then, really, you lived happily ever after, never had a problem
since I became a Christian, I've never got upset, I've never been ill, I've never had an argument with my wife. I'm really rich, I drive a Ferrari,
Isn't it wonderful?
and none of my friends have ever died. It's just the best. I would encourage you all to come to Jesus just for those extra perks you get, like Ferraris and stuff.
Yeah, so what's the reality?
Ah, it's been tough. In fact, I've probably lost more friends than gained it. Loved ones have died. I don't have much money.
But sin is finished with. You've had no struggles with sin since then, have you?
I still struggle with sin, big time. Probably more now after I've become a Christian than before. But like more sneaky, secret ones that we don't really tell people about. Yeah, that's still there. And I tell you another thing, I got really worried, like, is asking to be saved alright? Because I was just scared of hell. Is that alright? Is that a legitimate way to become a Christian? I'm scared of hell, please save me. Or do I have to actually say, look, I really love you, Jesus. Please now save me, because I didn't feel that love much. That's come over time, but at the time I didn't feel it. And then I read a verse about, now you've got to flee from the anger that's coming. God says, flee from the wrath to come. So actually, if you are scared of hell and you say, like, I just want to be saved from that, that is a legitimate way of asking to be saved. So I got worried about that at the start. Plus, I'm still struggling with sin. And I didn't like that I wasn't in with my buddies as much as I was. Because sin is quite enjoyable. And unless you start doing Christianity the proper way, where it's really enjoyable, you're plugged into the life of church and you're serving others, that's real great stuff. Unless you do that, you're going to miss sin. Thing is, if you turn on sin, you've got to replace it with something good. And I wasn't good at that time, early on, at replacing my life with better stuff. So I fell quickly back into sin. Yes, sir.
Okay, so then there came a point where Jesus became more powerfully beautiful to you.
Right, so
Just tell us about that,
okay.
that time. I mean, how long passed between your conversion and this next experience we're going to speak about?
Right, conversion, then got back into sin quite heavily. And then I went to America like half a year later, because there's a preacher in America that I like, so I booked a weekend flight and went to America to listen to him preach with my dad.
As you do.
As you do. And we were standing at a bus stop, and all of a sudden I got really guilty and convicted of my sin that I'd been doing that for like half a year. In fact, so much so, I started crying at this bus stop, looking like a complete nutter.
How old were you?
Like, probably early 20s now, I'm 20. So I got my dad there, who I probably never cried out in front of as an adult, well, for years. And he's like looking at me. I'm just crying, and there are people in the bus stop, and I'm like, my dad's like, do you want to go back inside? And I'm like, no, I'm all right. So that was awkward. What had happened was God had really told me how serious sin is, and that I should be more like Jesus than I had been for that half a year. So he really bothered me about my sin again. So I was like, right, let's do it again. Jesus, please forgive me. Help me to live more like you going forward.
And that's not your conversion, this is returning from backsliding, isn't it?
I have those moments all the time where I'm like, right, sorry about that, Lord. Let's do it again. And time and time and time and time and time again, he's like, all right. I knew you'd be like this even before I died for you, before I even made you. I knew you before the foundation of the world. I know that you are messy, but I'll stick with you. And that's what he's in the business of. It's pretty mental, actually. Yeah.
Would you say...
Okay, wait.
Go on.
Because you know when you fall in love with a girl, you know those movies, like love movies, and some guy's in the war and he's got a picture of his missus around his neck or something, and he like walks through Russia just to get back into her arms and kills all these Germans. He's thinking, what is he on about? No, wait, it will make sense. You know, that sort of thing. My problem with those lockets are the women in it are always like amazingly beautiful. And I always feel sorry for like the women in the world that aren't amazing beautiful. They're probably going, why won't some guy go through Russia and kill Nazis to get to me? So, that's what I think anyway. It gets me down actually on a daily basis. I get sad about that. Anyway, the point is, Jesus isn't in the business of only going after people who are incredibly amazing and are perfect in every way. And actually, if he thinks about me, like knowing what I would have been like and what I am like, and he's still bothered to come all the way to earth to get me, it's like you're in a different type of business from the men on those lovey-dovey movies. That's why he's awesome.
Right.
I forgot what your question is.
Would you know that we were talking about this crisis where sin is more real to you now and the seriousness of it? You talked about having to replace sin with something more wonderful.
Yeah.
Would you say you were helped from that point to see more of the beauty of Jesus?
Yeah, over the years I've seen more aspects of why Jesus is so amazing, and if you're Christians you're going to see it too, like how he's so much a more faithful friend than any of other friends, and how loyal he is and doesn't stab you in the back. As you go through life you're going to see why he's so precious, and that is a lifelong journey. One of the key ways for me he's so precious is his amount of forgiveness and love that he continually shows.
Is there anything you had to give up for him that you wouldn't have wanted to give up for him? Or has his beauty won you over? Would you say he's demanding or is he compelling?
Good, nice. I like that question. Well, he does demand I give my sin up. But he's so wonderfully worth it, so he's also compelling. At the time when I sin, I love my sin. But here is a fact. Jesus is better than sin, and life with Jesus is better than life with sin. And you just blossom more as a human with Jesus than with your sin. Like, I live among complete and utter losers where I live, who have just given their lives to sleeping around, and now they're seedy creeps, and like that sin of sleeping around has just eaten them up alive, and now they're just a shell of a human. I live with people who have given their lives thinking that being drunk is the be-all and end-all and the happiest joy we could ever have as humans, and now they're sad alcoholics who have lost like good quality standard of living. And you will learn that life with Jesus, you will learn that Jesus knows what's best for you. The devil hates you and wants to destroy you. So he's like, oh yeah, have what you want, mate. Just, I'll never say no to you. You'll learn that when Jesus says no to things in your life, it's because he absolutely wants the very best for you. And that dawned on me only in the last, I don't know, decade or something. Like my kid, if he could eat McDonald's every single meal of every day, he would. And I'd be a terrible parent if I was like, no, yeah, just do it, mate, have it all. You'll die of heart failure at age 9, but have it all. That's a bad parent. A good parent, and I'm learning this more and more with Jesus, is he says, no, don't do that. Trust me, that sin is bad, give it up. So he does tell me to give sins up. And yeah, so there is a bit of a fight. No, I know better. I'll just keep this one sin. He's like, no, trust me. Because he doesn't tell you to do things just for the sake of it. He tells you to do things because he wants the very best for you. That, I think, has changed my life, coming at it from that perspective.
Okay, we've had about 20 minutes or so.
Well, and you've only asked me 2 questions.
Yeah, well,
sorry.
no, there's lots more we could cover, but I don't want to just cover your whole life for the sake of it. I want now to pause a little bit, because some important issues that some of these youngsters and me and the leaders can relate to have covered. I'm just wondering if there are any questions you want to ask Owen at this stage. Anything you'd like to elaborate on or expand on?
When are you going to get to Romans 10? That was a question.
Well, yeah, I told him 10 years. No, actually, we shouldn't be too long, actually. Shouldn't be too long. Before the summer.
You started Romans 8 like a year and a half ago.
Yes.
Oh,
So
wait,
Romans about 10 years ago.
wait till you get to 9, that's 10 years in itself, chapter 9.
Chapter 9's, yeah, looking forward to chapter 9. But chapter 8 is wonderful. Anyway, we're not talking about
Yeah.
Romans. Anything that Owen said so far you'd like to ask him?
Yeah. So you said that you lost more friends, you lost more friends than you gained when you became a Christian. Did you find that was hard, or did you thank the Lord for it?
No, I found it hard because my best friends were the ones I grew up in school with. I was closer to them than I was to the church friends, so that was hard. But after I became Christian, when they met me, it was always they wanted to meet me in the nightclubs or the pubs or whatever, and I was no good at standing for Jesus in those places, so I had to stop going because I would always end up drinking too much or whatever. So what I actually did, and at that point we stopped knowing each other as well, what I started to do was invite them to see me, but on neutral territory, like, oh, come over, we'll have a curry, or we'll meet in a cafe and have a catch up. So I lost some of them at the start, but over time I've been able to stay in touch with them and things like that.
You got baptised, didn't you, after the American incident?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
I worked in Cardiff Bay as a security guard, and when I got back from... Who laughed? Yeah, I'm hard. I'd have Lewis in a fight. Anyway, when I got back from
This needs to
America...
happen.
Yeah.
Arm wrestle
That's
afterwards,
the
okay?
thing. When I got back from America, I was telling I worked with bouncers and security guards, like the hardest people in Cardiff, with tattoos all over their faces and heads and that. I was like, oh, let me tell you about Jesus. And anyway, I got baptised and they all came to my baptism. And so the church was just packed with complete psychos, which is what church is for, which was awesome. So that was good fun. But I tell you why they came. Because I wasn't filthy with them. I wasn't stealing. I wasn't cheating on people's girlfriends. And actually, what you find with humans, however hard they are, they do appreciate. They appreciate integrity and honesty. And I think that's why they came, because they were like, we could actually trust this guy. Alright, we take the mick out of him and he's a Christian or whatever, but he is actually friendly to us. And he does care about us and has an interest in us, and I think that does speak to people.
Any more questions?
Were there any significant low points in your 12 to 19-year-old period. How do you combat that?
Yeah, I get depressed, so especially as a teen. I think it's in my family. My sister has depression, so I went super low. I go super low in life, actually, even now sometimes. There's a few aspects to that. If it's a lot of it with me is body and brain, so I address that. Like, if I'm tired, I make sure I'm sleeping. I eat well. I enjoy a hobby or spend time with whatever, or time on my own. I've got to address that because that's so often linked to the spiritual stuff as well. So I do go low even now as a Christian. But what gets me through all that is knowing that it's all about what He does for me, not what I do. That is the fundamental reason I am going to heaven, is because of what Jesus has done for me, and that's not going to change. And that helps me get through the low times, actually.
Anything else? Okay, well, Owen will be around. There's plenty of time to chat to him over the hot dogs and later on. So thank you. We must have you back at some point, if you would come back again and talk about the rest of your interesting life so far. And Owen's now a minister here in the city of Cardiff. He was in Ogmore Vale, and we'll learn about that maybe next time he comes, but now he's at Park End Presbyterian Church. We went to his induction, Lewis and I, last Saturday afternoon, and it's great to have you here in the city. So thank you, Owen, for the moment.